Welcome to FMTV, where every day is a great day to talk about FileMaker. If you go to FMTV, you can see the upcoming broadcast schedule. We will kind of today and tomorrow is the last 2 days for the end of this calendar year. Then we'll pick it up January, whatever it is. So this is the FileMaker Go training tool. We've developed this years ago. We haven't updated in about 4 or 5 years. What you do is that it's on my iPad here. Let me break out my screen here. So what you're going to do is you're going to run this on your iPad, right? Okay, same deal. You're going to run on your iPad, the same file on your iPad. You also run a FileMaker Pro. This is for those of you who haven't built big Go solutions, or you're unfamiliar, or you've forgotten about it. Because what you do is you run this on the iPad over here. Up this screen appears iPad. This one down here is Pro. You can also run it as a third machine as WebDirect. Okay, so it's on FileMaker server, and you can compare the behavior between the two. And the whole idea with this is, as we go through this thing, I hit overview right here. I hit show all. And the idea is that these are all the items that we address in here. And there's quite a few of them. And me and Margaret are going back through them. Some of them we've gone down this far and recertified this group. So we're about a third of the way through recertifying it and updating the content. It basically hasn't changed. There's very few changes in FileMaker Go, okay? I'm not going to editorialize that. I'm just saying good, bad, or otherwise. There are generally very few changes in it. Claris mostly just keeps it up to date and working. They don't really add a lot of new to it. So with that in mind, what you do is you start, if you want to learn the whole thing, you start at the top, and it's basically like a book. So next page, previous page, and you flip through issues, and that's what we're going to do. If you have questions, Margaret, I need you to watch the chat.
Yes.
And yell at me as soon as someone wants to talk. So once again, you start up here, then you're on the iPad. So I'm going to look over on my iPad. I'm going to click overview. I'm going to hit show all at the top. And then I'm just going to hit the very first one on the list. And why is that on a different one here? This is the first malfunction I've had, and I've been working on this for a couple hours.
I know. It always happens when we're live.
This is a free solution. So we're doing this all for you for free, okay? Just what happens with my life, it always happens. So the first page is the Apple website. It's Apple's Human Interface Guidelines. So we used to talk about this quite a bit. Nick used to talk about this quite a bit. Now I think Nick largely slides it in subtly. Apple has guidelines about how you build applications that are great. What do they say? It's Apple. The whole point with the ecosystem with Apple builds is that it's supposed to surprise and delight. The two words: surprise you and delight you. The two words. If FileMaker surprise and delights you, then it represents Apple well. If it doesn't surprise and delight you, then you need to ask, or people ask Claris why it doesn't do that, maybe make a suggestion. This human interface guidelines is what I consider minimum level oxygen. If I click it, it'll pop this up, and it's about if you're going to do gestures, controls, design, app icons, accessibility, writing, typography, and so it's gotten pretty sophisticated in here, but it talks about how things should pop up text-wise and how things should look this way. And a lot of it's been updated. It's pretty modern because this is that VR, the goggles, the Vision, Pro Vision stuff. They're talking about how to do things like this versus not do stupid shit like this. Anyway, so it's pretty interesting. So just so you know, we put that in here. It used to be a PDF. And of course, Apple being Apple decided that PDFs were so Adobe, and Adobe sucks. Generally, they have big fights. And so anyway, so they quit using the PDF and they just made it a dynamic web page, if that makes any sense. So that's in there. That's page one. So I'm going to navigate down here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, when we get something interesting, I'll go up here and bring up the same page. So you can do both together, right? So I can hit next down here. Then I can hit next on that. We can do them together. This bit of text right there, but I have verified this is none of this has changed. It's all accurate. Short version is that creating a database, modifying the structure scheme of the database is not something you're going to do in anything other than Pro, okay, period. Plugin access is not available on Go unless you use FileMaker iOS App SDK. Totally different conversation. That's where you take FileMaker Go, you work with the Apple developer website, you compile a solution, you put it on Apple Store. Okay, whether it's free or whatever, or maybe only for your company. That's the whole conversation. We've had that conversation last time with Hansa on the Goad Zinc or whatever. He has a service where he does that automatically. So you're not going to do structural development. Preview mode is kind of a mode that's kind of going away or has gone away largely. Then WebDirect has other limitations. So this document here Mostly it's about Go and Pro, but there's some WebDirect conversation here if it's relevant, okay? But the thing with WebDirect people have to understand is that it's generic to a browser, which means fundamentally it doesn't know what kind of hardware it's on, which means it doesn't know if it's on a device with a camera or it's on a computer with no camera or it's got a keyboard or it's got a mouse or whatever. And so all the great, awesome, gooey, killer shit that you can do with FileMaker Go is not really a WebDirect thing. WebDirect is, once again, the tool you use when Pro and Go won't work, in my opinion. Some people go, we love it. Okay. And we've had many live streams about how much more difficult it is to build a high performance application with WebDirect than it is with Pro or Go. All right, so next screen here, I'm going to hit over here. And so this is an important thing. So the scroll control in FileMaker Pro, this is the status toolbar up here. We have one bar up here essentially. This is the scroll control. Some of you, I love it. I like it. Some of you hate it. They want to, they build their own, right? Which is always this kind of painful experience. Nick is a guy who likes to generally suppress it and not use it, roll his own, which is fine, whatever. But this is what it looks like here, okay? I'm going to hit, I'm trying to control the iOS device from the mouse. I can't do that. So I'm going to hit next over here. This is where it gets interesting. So if I go next over here, FileMaker Go has a menu bar at the top and a toolbar at the bottom. Where on Pro, it's one bar. And on WebDirect, it's one bar at the top. And so only iOS, because Apple controls the operating system and they control the integration of the hardware, they know that they have the room on the screen and they think about all this stuff. The reason browsers don't have a real easy control on the bottom is because the people who code the browsers have no idea what hardware it's going to run on. I mean, they have an idea. You're going to use Windows 11 with this i9 processor and blah, blah, blah. Or you're on a Mac and you do this. When you're Google, right, and you're doing Chrome, you have no idea what people are going to run on. You can make no real assumptions. And because of that, you lose some of the really great integration, and one of which is the bottom bar. So this bottom bar is called the toolbar. The top bar is called the menu bar. If you're over here on Go, it's 3 fingers. I'm moving 3 fingers down, and then you get the bottom, and that right there is the scroll control, right? If I click on it, there's your scroll control. So flip records, show omitted, things like that, and then go records left, go records right. That's how that works. And so that was 3. You can't see my 3 fingers. So I'm using here. I can't make 3. There are 3 fingers, right? 3 fingers on your iPad, and you move it up and down, assuming it's not locked out. So if I move it up, it goes away. Okay, there we go. So basically what I'm doing is I'm showing you the various pieces here that you see from the menu. And these are pieces that replicate essentially the essential features of Pro, and they replicate it in Go. And then WebDirect essentially came out after Go did, technically, and they borrowed a lot of the design concepts from Go, because if you could make the fewer new interfaces you build, the happier the developer community will be. Pro and Go and WebDirect in the ideal world would all work identically, like identically down to the pixel. And they don't, but that would be ideal. So you'll see a lot of similarities between WebDirect and FileMaker Go. So I'm gonna hit next down here. And then someone put an Easter egg in here. I did not see this until this morning. I was like, wow, really? So hit that right there, the button. And so that is the hide and show menu bar script step, right? Or that's the menu bar, and that's the hide show toolbar. On the Mac and on Windows, it's one command and it rolls the whole thing up and down, right? And then you have the one extra little bar, the formatting bar, right? Is underneath there, right?
Oh, yes, that's a separate thing.
Canberra's typing, Margaret. Make sure if anyone yells at me, we catch what they say.
Yes.
So anyway, the artwork like this is why this is great, because if you run on Pro over here, for those of you coming late, you run this on Pro, Mac or Windows, and you run this on Go on an iPad, then you have a really good, or you can run it, now, this won't really run super great. You could try to run on the phone. To be clear, I have yet to have a customer who really embraced Go on a phone where they actually had to really use the app, like do a bunch of typing and shit. The Big Valley Aviation people love the iPhone. Why do they love it? Because all it is a big microphone. They talk on it. It's like we don't have our our favorite fire marshal is here. He's not here today, but it's like, oh, well, Roger, we have a fire at 3rd Street at Main on the 2nd floor. And so they treat it like a radio. They hit the record button and they record into this iPhone they put in their pocket. They might click one big giant menu bar on it. We've had a live show on that. That's it. They're not doing any of this creative data entry stuff on the phone. So the phone continues to be this weird tool that's great for TikTokers and Margaret to use. But I mean, Margaret, talk to me about your use of the phone. How far can you get? Because you're also a writer. You're working on
Yes.
your
No, it's
book.
going to be interesting when the new generation comes over because I'm the oldest of the Zoomers, right? So I'm kind of at a weird middle straddle line. I remember VHS, for example. Most people younger than me do not. Um, but I have talked to younger authors who have written entire novels on their phone. Like they sat there and they typed 85,000 words on their phone keyboard. I have occasionally typed small chunks on my phone keyboard if I like really need like a different interaction to like jump my brain, but I only ever do it for like 100 or 200 words. Um, but I have
They
met
wrote a whole
authors.
book on their phone.
Yes. Yes. And
And
this is not an only person. Like, this is not one random freak of nature. I've talked to a couple in their early 20s. So I'm 27, and they're like a writer 21, 22. And they wrote a whole novel on their phone. One of them said it was
wow.
because she was a mom and she was busy running around taking care of kids. So if she wanted to write, she had to pull her phone out at random points in times. But the other one just said that he found it more comfortable. So it'd be interesting to see if they make FileMaker Go a development platform at some point. I
Well,
know
they
that.
wanted it. That was a major okay, back up. You saying that, but I have talked to people who were in the meetings down there, and this goes back a lot of years back, but they wanted to make FileMaker Go a development tool. It was an uphill battle for them to do that. Claris is really great at small, incremental, little things that they do. Okay, it's the company that we have today. Let me add one last thing. So
Yes.
there is a tool. So this is Xcode. This is how Apple tells its development community to build tools. The interface for FileMaker, the modern bits of the interface for FileMaker, like the script workspace and a couple other areas in it, are modeled after Xcode. Xcode doesn't run as a development platform on an iPhone. It's a Mac app only, and they make it in such a way that really you need a good Mac to run it because it's very processor and resource intensive. And so this is it down here. You got menu bars over here. You got inspector toolbars here, and your code and your interface. It's in here. Very FileMaker-y kind of. I mean, way more difficult, but you get the idea. So even Apple doesn't recommend this. It's not an Apple thing. Okay. Now, writing a book is not the same as writing an application with code that you have to evaluate and then get a debug. Oh, I got a
Nope.
debug window that pops up. No. And so what I tell people is that, well, should FileMaker, should Claris do this? And I ask you, should Apple do it? Because wherever Claris would like to go where Apple has gone, billions, trillions of dollars, be rich and famous, and we're all successful. Their bosses are Apple. So if you follow what Apple does and you're halfway successful, then you probably get to keep your job, right? Makes sense? And so if Apple says no development on the iPhone is a consumption tool only. You take pictures with it, make some notes, you can Snapchat, but it's really a consumption tool as opposed to a creation tool, right? Doesn't mean there won't be people who misuse it. My other daughter used to try to edit videos on it. And she got really pissed when she had a 5-minute video and it blew up and it crashed and it corrupted all her work because the phone couldn't handle a 5-minute video, right? So anyway, so moving forward on our conversation. So we have different toolbars here. Once again, you could turn them on and off with the scripts. Once again, I'm not trying to educate everyone on this. I'm just saying this is how we do this and we go through this. And me and Margaret have been updating this tool. Please, you will get this, make this new version available to you tomorrow. We're going to make sure that we've updated as much as we can. This right here talks about sleep and restore. Okay, so the short version is that FileMaker Go, back in the old days, if you had a FileMaker Pro on a laptop and you closed it, you'd open back up, it would disconnect, and it would say, can't connect, can't find it, you have to relog in, giant mess. FileMaker Go initially was like that. Then the engineers at Claris went, wow, this really sucks. that it keeps getting disconnected. And this whole idea of when an app goes into the background on the iOS, I'm holding up my iPad here for a moment. When an app is on here and it goes to the background, it basically quits running. Apple doesn't like a lot of background processes. I think FileMaker decided not to tilt the windmills on that, so they don't do background processing. Some apps will do background processing, but can run your battery dead. And as soon as the batteries run dead on iPhone or iPads, people go on the internet and complain like hell. So Apple discourages that sort of behavior. And so FileMaker Go, you can test it on here. There's a little demo in here. I'm not going to bother with it, but you can have a script running. It can go to the background. When it comes forward, the script will continue as a general rule. There are exceptions to this. Read this if you want to know about it, okay? So what happened is that Claris builds this for Go, and the engineers at Claris are going from meeting to meeting to meeting at their own building. And every time they go from meeting to meeting, the engineers are coding the app. Guess what? They're using Xcode and the Windows tool, so they're using laptops. They go from meeting to meeting with the laptops. They close the laptop, walk to the next meeting room. They're all disconnected from because their databases. They're using database. They're disconnected. They go, this sucks. So how about we build a feature for ourselves? So I'm not making any of this up. This is all true. And what happens is that they decide that when you open the laptop app, it will try to automatically reconnect to where it was. And that was so the Claris engineers wouldn't waste time going from meeting to meeting to meeting. Never mind, it was one of the biggest features that they gave the customer. So anyway, so we'll move forward on that. Move forward on this. There's an extended privilege set specific to, this is used to be a certification test question. So privileges limit what you can do in FileMaker. Extended privileges are limitations to sharing FileMaker. It's a loose term, sharing. In terms of, can FileMaker Pro open it, yes or no? If the extension for that, the command is, you see FM reauthenticate over here. You can't see it very well. If I zoom in over here, there we go. See the FM reauthenticate right there? So FM reauthenticate has to do with an app going to sleep. So FM reauthenticate 0 means that if you're an Apple employee or Claris engineer and you're in a meeting, you close the laptop, you go to the next meeting 5 minutes later or 30 seconds later, it won't matter. It forces you to put your password in or do a thumbprint. The FM reauthenticate is forces a authentication, okay? And FM app is for Pro, and then there's FM WebDirect, which and once again, this is minutes. Here, this is minutes. It could be 1 minute, 10 minutes. You can go up to 2 weeks, I think, or something like that. This right here. And if you don't put any of these in, by default is 10 minutes. It covers this right here. This should be part of the certification.
You can make it wait 2 weeks. That's kind of an interesting.
Well, they had to put a practical limit on how far, right? So that's what happened. There we go. Actual size. All right, cool.
I wonder if anyone's ever actually done that.
Layout size and layout zoom. FileMaker tends to want to try to resume stuff. This is not the worst one on the planet. I'm going to let that one go, but just understand that there's talk about zooming. The one that's kind of a giant pain in the ass we'll get to momentarily, it's where you double click and you miss and then it zooms the screen. That's real obnoxious. I was running into that today. Just keep that in mind. All these issues, by the way, you see here have all been revalidated. Everything we're getting to today has been revalidated. So keyboard state, toggle touch, touch keyboard true, display, persist switching layouts. Yeah, you can turn the keyboard on and off, forcibly turn it off if you want on the iOS device, okay? Has to do with menu bars and copy paste. If you read this, it talks about a staggered, let me go over here, hit next. And if I click on this radio button one, I'm gonna put my mouse over here. I'm gonna click right there. If you do the staggered double tap thing, you can get the copy paste thing to pop. See there it did the zoom. We're going to cover that in one of the next ones. So I'm going to pinch down to have it go back to its 100% size. See, there it is. It's zoomed and it copy paste. When I build apps, Margaret, and this goes for BVA, one of the things we always want to turn off is turn off the auto zoom. By default, it's on. It's a default behavior. So the idea on iOS is that if you can't read something or you need some more info, like the red, I'm going to double tap over here in the red. You just double tap and it like zooms in because, oh, you're blind so you can read this, right? I guess it's so obnoxious. If you grew up with regular computers, they don't do this. Windows and Mac don't do this fundamentally. So yeah. Tabs. All right, real quick. When you're tabbing on the keyboard, tick, 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 two things come up. One is that tabbing on iOS is limited to fields. On the Mac or on Windows, I'm going to tab. So we're in here. I'm going to hit tab again, right? Tab again. We're tabbed to a button, right? It's in the tab order. On iOS, I'm not going to demo it. It only tabs between two fields. And what used to be here was over here. I'm going to use my mouse. It used to say tab over here somewhere. And now they got rid of the tab, and now it says previous and next. So next is a tab. Previous, for those of you who don't know, this is a shift tab. So it's where you go backwards, right? So if you hold shift on your keyboard and hit tab, it goes backwards. So that's an FYI for those of you wondering about that. Get rid of the keyboard, go to the next, done, go to the next item. Yeah, there, and it talks about that right here and it on keystroke. So the tab, the previous and next buttons that are there are part of FileMaker. So what Claris does is they spawn the keyboard that you just saw, and they put those buttons over the top. So those are Claris FileMaker specific buttons, right? And they're over the default keyboard. However, because they are their own buttons, the Apple iOS operating system doesn't know to look for them as a trigger. So on object keystroke is an operating system call that Claris makes, and it's waiting for the iOS to report any keystrokes, but it'll only report native system keystrokes, not the new you glued on top. So it's kind of one of these can't get there from here deals, right? Right. I mean, you can get there, but you have to drive all the way around. And Claris, didn't want to build their own keyboard, so you get kind of this thing, right? So it's mostly good. Most people don't complain about it. I don't try to have users do a lot of tabbing unless it's right within a little set of boxes. But some people want to tab to a button, then hit a return or space bar, whatever, to activate the button so they can make it go.
No, there's a lot of people who try to avoid the mouse as much as possible. The mouse is lava.
Okay, so here is this one right here is one of my more pet peeves on this. I call it zoom sickness. Once again, if you double tap on your iPad screen, I'm gonna double tap on the red here, you get this zoomy, and you get that because your fat finger, because you're an old guy, you tap on it and you miss. And so it doesn't go, hey, you missed. I kind of knew what you were, but I'm going to ignore it. Instead, it goes, hey, you didn't hit the button, but since you tapped in the middle of nowhere, I think that you want to actually zoom in and look at this. No, I want to stay here. So what you do is we hit run the script, this top one right here. You let go of that. And so zooming is off, okay? So then I'm going to tap real loudly. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Tap, 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 tap. It doesn't work. So if I build an iOS app, I turn that on in the startup script automatically. So people, like I'm trying to pinch and zoom and do on the key. My fingers are going like this and it won't do anything. It'll operate normally. The buttons work normally. It works like a regular computer, okay? Good, bad, or otherwise. So I'm gonna turn it off so we have default behavior. So now I turned it off with the script step, and if I double tap, then we're back to this again. Right, Margaret? Cool.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so sorting, real quick on sorting. Sorting in Go only will sort the fields that, it'll only allow you to select the fields that are on the current layout. That's an option in Pro. You need to do the current layout or do the fields for the table, right? So just a minor difference there. So click the next one there. This talks about opening remote files that are hidden. You could put a complete path in there. No big deal on that. That's a hosted file. This right here is a conversation about fonts. So back when these computers first came out, Apple only had so many fonts on the iOS devices. And now, and I updated in this file right here, we've updated to this link right here. You can say show system fonts for iPhone and iPad. It'll show the list is for that. And that's a lot, right? So what you want to do is compare this against what would be on, I don't know if that's inclusive of both or if it's an and or an or on this. But what you'd want to do is you want a font that's on Mac, Windows, and iOS is what you want. In my limited opinion of things, you can do what you want, everyone, but that's my limited opinion. So there's that. So this is great. This is really a great moment when you side by side. So see all of them down here? These are the extra unsupported styles, right? And over here, on iOS, they're not supported. They just look blank. So Supported ones on the left, unsupported on the right. Once again, Pro Go, right? Margaret and I were validating this information here for you. All of this is still accurate in here. Once again, basically, if you're doing stuff with FileMaker Go, you need to be careful about moving too much data, too much text, too big of images. We haven't got to it yet today, but Margaret and I had huge problems, and it came on some of the live streams. So Apple's got this new, I don't know if it's Apple's format, but it's not really super supported by Microsoft. It's the HEIC, HEIV formats, high efficiency, something or another. And FileMaker Go, a year ago when Margaret was doing the Go stuff for Big Valley, it would just show up. It would show actually an image, and it would be corrupted, like an old image that's corrupted, and you could tell it's a picture, but it's all been jankied up and it's bad. And so that was fixed in FileMaker 21.1, like a month ago. So Claris should have supported that a long time ago. I don't know why they didn't, but it forced us and Christian Schmidt at Monkey Bread to go through a process to convert those images off of HEIC to PNG or JPEG or something. So we wouldn't have that jankiness, right?
Yeah, that was extremely important.
Well, that's what happens. I mean, you have new tech from Apple. Claris has to support it, but sometimes it's not high on their priority list, and they leave it to people like Christian Schmidt. Christian Schmidt makes his entire living off of Claris saying no.
And he does a very good job of it, too.
Oh, he does a horrifically good job. In fact, he's going to be here quite a bit in January.
Yes, the first 2 weeks we'll have like 4 sessions with him. So
yeah, and so every time that Claire, we would like blah blah blah, and Claire says no, or maybe they'll go, we'll think about it. Christian Schmidt goes, it'll be here tomorrow. The one I want to call out here is super important. This one right here. Well, like I said, I'm calling out the important things that I think are important because for what I do for most of the time, I'm kind of a really good intermediate to advanced developer in that range in there. I don't do a lot of the JSON supercoding stuff. This one right here. So here's the deal. Let's play with this momentarily here for a little bit. The lateral left and right. See, it says also right here, also right here. The lateral left and right spacing between Mac and iOS is nearly almost identical. You can almost take it to the bank. So like when we used to do conversions, I don't have Windows on here. You have Windows, remember it would be a little taller and you had to space it and do stuff like this. So now you have you have 4 really. You got Mac, Pro Windows, Go on an iPad or whatever, and then you have WebDirect, right? But so normally Windows is vertically or left and right was a little bit wider or narrow is what it was. Left and right was wider or narrow. iOS, the left and the lateral, it matches from Mac to iOS, but the vertical is off, and it's off about 105 to 110%. So that's how you need to be aware of doing the adjustment on that, right? So you need to expect that if I put this up here like this, and that text, see how it's longer down here, Margaret? It comes down here versus over here. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
that's
that's because it's laterally the same, but the spacing is taller on that. So just in this you can't really stroke or mess with too much, but with Pro you can adjust it on this side so it matches. So
yes, if you tried to like double space it, it would not look good, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, I think so let's just for fun, let's try this as an exercise. I'm gonna go to layout mode over here. I'm gonna move my face. I just wanted you guys to see, so as I start waving my hands around, you can see what's happening. I click on this, I go to this one right here. No, this one right here. Yes. So height line spacing. I'm gonna do, if I do 1.1, that's 110%, 1.1. Now see, it's taller. Now, does that match?
That's pretty close.
That's really close right there. So that's why I say 105 to 110%. I guess you could put 10. Let me do 05 in here just for fun. 05. Will it take that? It did. So you were looking for 105 to 1.1 is the conversion therein on this. Mm-hmm. And that gets you pretty close. I think right now 110 was better, at least on this font in this situation. Okay. That right there, that and locking the screen are 2 of the biggest things you can do just to make your life not a total living hell as you're working with this thing. Okay, multiple value selections. I'm not going to bother with that. If you care about if you have a value list on Pro or Go, you can multi-select things. Let me put myself back up here. Click on this. If you click, how come that's not working? Oh yeah, because it has this. You have to click on it. I can hold Command or Control key and select things like this. This does not appear to be support on Go. If you know how to do this, let me know. But it doesn't seem to be support over here. No big
We
deal.
have a
Yes.
question. David said, I missed it. What are the supported fonts for Go? Uh, it's a huge list.
It's a big ass list. It used
We
to be
have
like,
a website, which I can find for you directly. So give me a
yeah,
second.
it's an Apple site, Margaret. And
Yeah.
what you do is you just, yeah, it's a big list. It's not like it used to be like 5 fonts or 8 fonts or something. Now it's right
Substantial.
more than I can't quote it. This hasn't changed too much. Basically, there's insert from device, which is a awesome script step. It only works in Go. Period. People expect it to work in WebDirect because, well, I got a browser on my Android device and I want to take a picture with the camera. No, it's not going to do that. It doesn't do that. The only way you can get a camera to work on an Android device is to do something janky through the web viewer with some JavaScript or something, and then it will be potentially fragile because you're doing advanced stuff through the code through a web viewer, and web code changes all the time. That's why browsers update all the time. You go to websites that haven't been updated, they look weird, they don't work correct. It's web viewers are continuous maintenance, right? Continuous maintenance. Also, like a container field that is set for interactive is a web viewer, and it's why we don't use them. And I have the engineers that use them, and then 18 months later, the customers call, they're pissed off because they paid the engineer money, and it doesn't work because it's based upon a web viewer, and the code changes. So this has to do with Siri. Talk to Siri on your phone. Wonderful, whatever. That's great. I don't have anything in here on Apple Intelligence. I haven't played with Apple Intelligence. I know Siri is as dumb as a stump still, and very useless.
She
Especially if
used
I'm
to be smarter. I swear she was smarter.
yeah,
My older version was able to like actually do things I told her to do.
okay. Uh, Importing records from FileMaker Pro between Pro and Go. There's kind of instructions in here how to play with some of that. Generally, importing and exporting records in WebDirect, generally not super supported. Or what wasn't supported in the mobile browser? Is that what it was? That's okay. Hang on one second. Oh, that goes back to the beginning. Okay, time out real quick. So browsers, you have a it's very important to make this distinction. Oh, hang on, I keep clicking that. Get them on the same page. Okay, so a browser on your computer, on a laptop or desktop computer, that is a full-powered browser. Mobile browsers are the version of Chrome or the version of Safari that are designed for not the full operating system. They're designed for iOS, iPadOS, iOS, Microsoft does it for whatever their Surface stuff is, generally, unless you have the full powered Windows on there. So the mobile browsers have less horsepower, less capabilities, and so you will run into problems with WebDirect specifically on a mobile device because the mobile device has the mobile browser, and the mobile browser can only do certain things because potentially the operating system only does certain things. So if I'm just going to run to the very beginning here on this real quick, but this is an important caveat in here. If I go to overview, I go to next, right here, there's no direct control of cameras and things like that on WebDirect, fine. No importing, exporting of records using WebDirect on a lot of these limitations are on a mobile browser, okay? And in Claris, if you go to the help, you do a search on help, like you do a search on importing, exporting container field data, and it will say supported on WebDirect with an asterisk, right? And then you read down the bottom of the notes, and the asterisk will say not it's supported on the full browser on a full computer, but not on the mobile browser. So understand that there are differences in deployment between like a full laptop, Mac or Windows laptop, and a large mobile tablet on that platform. iOS, like an iPad Pro, the 13 to 12.9 inch one, and then the appropriate Surface that's running the lightweight operating system over there. There's limitations in there that might booger you up. So you need to be careful about, once again, careful about the promises you make to your customers, whoever your solution you're building for. Once again, reminder, don't promise something you haven't built or promise something that someone else that you know and trust hasn't built, right? So just you have to remind our engineers of that. Just because they think it should work doesn't mean it's so, right? So anyway, so let me go back forward quite a bit. I'm going to go down here to usability, tab order, zooming, remote hidden fields. So let's see, that's usability, text editing, miscellaneous editing, drop down behavior, barcode scanning, go, import with FileMaker is kind of where we were. And then the next one after this is this. So system, device, platform, this is all cookie cutter, nothing's changed here. You can detect, these are what you could to detect. Linux is basically for Linux and WebDirect, if you have that going, or Linux on your server, right, is where you're going to get the Linux here. And then you've got the type of device, right? So you can detect Macs, Windows, PCs, iPad, Android, etc. Okay, active modifier keys. Once again, on a mobile device, on the onboard keyboard, and I come over here and I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna click on the top field. You get the keyboard. If I try to hold the Shift key down with my left hand over here on the left, see the little up arrow on the left? I'm clicking it over there. You can't hold it and then do something else. Now, if you have a legit normal keyboard with Bluetooth, I don't know what happens. I would consider that kind of an edge case because most people don't run around with legit full keyboards on their pads. Because if you have an iPad with a full keyboard, then what you should have bought was a laptop. So anyway, with more power and more capability. Layout size change, device. Oh, okay. Real quick, you're on an iPad. So back in the day, Apple, you could build an app that was either vertical or it would rotate, or you'd lock it in rotation. Generally, Apple doesn't want their app developers to build apps that lock either portrait or landscape, okay? And so back in the day, you could lock Go, then they removed that command because Apple didn't want them to endorse bad behavior. But when you rotate, we have to have a way of triggering a script to determine if you're on the right layout or maybe send you to a different layout. And so it's on layout size change. It used to be called on rotation or some shit, right? And they changed the name, layout size change. So if I'm over here and I'm on, you can actually run this on Pro too. So if let me see. Oh, there it goes. So it's just on this layout. So it triggered a script. You've switched screen rotation. Did you hear the beep? No, I didn't, but I'm on a weird microphone setup. So if I move this, it's firing. You see the screen. Margaret, are you seeing the flash at all on the screen?
Like like it flashing. Move it again.
The whole screen pulses, right?
Very faintly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and it beeps and shit. So on Go, it's running a script where I'm beeping and doing this. The script could do nothing or whatever. The point is that that's how you check to see if you need to. You can build a layout like with Nick with responsive design that as you rotate things rescale and shape and fit. Sometimes it's too far, your layout's too intricate to support that. So you have to send them to a separate layout. That's how you would trap and send them to the other layout. Okay, just so you know. This is GPS, nothing different with this. There's two Latin longs that are in here. One's Latin long, basic, and then Claris went back and added a better Latin long, which also gives you altitude. Once again, so you can, like one of these is in here as your altitude. Altitude's third one, so this is at 55. I'm at 55 feet. Sounds about right. The local airport, I think, is 64 feet above sea level.
So what happens if you're flying a helicopter and you run the script? It's just going to give you the altitude.
3,423 feet at that point, yeah.
I kind of want to try that just to see it happen.
Yeah, you can totally do that when you jump in the helicopter. Bring your phone. Well, bring an iPad or something. Bring your phone if you want. It does work. It works as advertised. I click over here. Gesture tap. There's an okay. Yeah, gesture. Okay, so real quick before I jump off of this one, gesture. There's no gesture tap on Mac. Okay, I put the little unhappy face over here earlier. The gesture tap controls are a Windows thing and an iOS thing. Steve Jobs and follow on with Tim Cook hated the idea of touching your screen. So if I'm over here touching on my screen on my computer, they don't like that. You should use your mouse or use your voice. Talk to Siri. They don't want you touching the screen. Gesture tap info, they limit you. You can tap once, you can do a double tap, or you can do 2-finger tap at one point, right? I think that's what the limits are. So I can come over here. I'm going to take 2 fingers. I'm going to double tap. So it's a tap. See that? Tap 2 fingers, right? If I use 3 fingers, 1, 2, 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I did 3 fingers. Okay, can I do 2 fingers twice? No, hear that? I'm tapping it twice. Tap, tap. So it does a single tap, a triple tap once. How about 4 fingers? I'm have to be dexterous here. Dexterous. Yeah, I can't. Oh, there that goes. Right. It left. So yeah, so 1 finger, you can get 1 finger or 2 fingers or 3 fingers. Okay. But the double tap is only on your 1 finger. And it gives you the coordinates too, which could be useful if you need the coordinates for that. All right, next item, back over here. Get sensor, once again, iOS device. This has to do with sensors like the person's running. You have so many steps, right? You can build your own Fitbit app on Go, I guess.
I mean, it would be,
Yeah, but it wouldn't. Yeah, the problem is FileMaker Go is not allowed to run as a
Oh,
multitasking in the background. See, the Fitbit people had to probably talk to Apple and sign a contract. So when they would submit their apps would be allowed to run and multitask in the background, assuming it didn't suck the shit out of the battery on the device, right?
yeah.
So you'd have to go and get an agreement with Apple to violate their rules and regulations. But Apple, I'm sure, loves Fitbit because everyone runs around with it. It sells a lot of products. So replace field contents is, once again, you can't do a replace and have the dialogue pop up on stuff. Okay. And this is about where we got to the other day, right? So as I'm motoring through things, you see this replace field contents. Like if I run the script right here, see how I get this window that pops up here on Pro?
Yes.
You're not going to get that on
Is nothing just going to happen, or is it just?
You have to script it, and it has to be fully complete without user intervention.
Ah.
This is where it says, do a replace, but ask the user what they think right in the middle. Okay. There's a number of spots in that on Pro, on Go, where it won't allow you to ask the user for the intervention. Like the sort, I think, is that way. Or maybe not, but you run the sort script. Some of them, like you could sort, it says, what do you want to do with sort? Some of these commands are the intermediate step of user input is not supported. So just keep that in mind. Oh, email. I was trying to figure out what to say about email.
I mean, isn't email generally going to be doomed to be a problem because of?
Well, the rub is that Claris, it depends if FileMaker is supposed to be a tool that basic beginning people should be able to learn, which I think it should. And then Claris needs to find a way to make it not require a PhD to make it go. I saw this today, like right before Marg and I were like turned on the show, and we're like, oh my God, what do I say about this, right? Because the reality is that it's not Claris's fault that email sucks, but it's Claris's fault for not addressing it in a proactive way that would help its beginning and intermediate users.
No, that makes sense. Like the scripts.
They should do something so you could run it through client, through the clients, and have Connect do it for you on your behalf, assuming that you send less than, say, 100. Like Google has this thing where you can send up to 100 emails a day, and then they go, time out. Are you spamming people? You know, David Angel has this formula for Viagra, or Top Cat is selling cats or something, and you want to. So like when we send a newsletter out, we can't send it through Google. We have to have a contract and agreement with a company that allows us to send out 100,000 emails, or however many a month I send out. I send 100,000 out every week, just about, from here, 60,000 a week. Yeah. So, but having basic email for most companies in a process like this is not going to send more than 100 emails, and that keeps you from being blacklisted and things like that. But that would be something that should happen. But there's not enough money, and everyone thinks it should be free because email's free. It's just the companies have to support that. It's kind of awkward.
It'd be a good use of Connect, though. Having it be a Connect thing.
It would be a great thing for Connect. I did get an email from them. They're still working on it, obviously. All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll pick this up tomorrow. If any of you folks have any questions, let us know.
Yes. We had an interesting person drop by on YouTube who's been doing FileMaker since 1983, which I looked that up. Was that even a thing? Because I started in 89. It was called FileMaker in 85, but prior to that point, it had a different name.
I think it was called Nutshell. There's an old phrase, Margaret. It's like everything in a nutshell.
Oh, okay.
Everything in a kitchen sink. We're gonna have that. I gave them both barrels. There's all these phrases, right? I gave
Well, I
them both.
have heard of nutshell. I just didn't actually associate that's why that was called that originally.
All right, guys, that's it for today. We appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow. If any of you have suggestions, as a reminder, 60 days of intensive beginning training. That will be starting January 21.
And we have 2 weeks of shenanigans before that point.
Yep, it should be fun. All right, everyone, we'll catch you tomorrow. If you're here, let us know. We'll have this file for you too tomorrow, and we're
Yes, we were updating it. We would give it to you now, but it's currently in the process of being updated.
about half
So.
updated. We're just looking for any obvious errors in it. All right, cool. See ya.
Bye.